going back to the book, during those first 14 months. So now he's going to talk about their workup a little bit, how they got ready for combat. Back to the book. During those 14 months before we sailed for Vietnam, we spent most of the time in the field practicing assault landings from helicopters and the incredibly complex coordination of artillery, tactical air support, and aerial rocket artillery with the all-important flow of helicopters into and out of the battle zone. Commanders had to learn to see terrain differently, to add a constant scan for landing zones, which are called LZs, and pickup zones, PZs, to all the other features they had to keep in mind. We practiced rapid loading and unloading of men and materiel to reduce the helicopter's window of vulnerability. Total flexibility was the watchword in planning and attitude. There was one bit of sobering reality that I insisted be introduced at every level in this training. We would declare a platoon commander dead and let his sergeant take over and carry out the mission, or declare a sergeant dead and have one of his PFCs take over running the squad. We were training for war, and leaders are killed in battle. I wanted every man trained for and capable of taking over the job of the man above him. So they're working a whole new gig here. No one had really done this before. Riding, everyone's going into combat on helicopters, and obviously helicopters give you a great amount of maneuverability. You can be up vertically and take off and travel a great distance and set down anywhere, or not anywhere, just about anywhere. You can set down in a lot of places, I should say, because you can't set down anywhere, especially in the jungle where you got trees and all kinds of obstacles, and then you've got enemy on top of that. And helicopters are pretty vulnerable flying machines. And so this idea, what they were practicing was this massive movement, move all the troops into the combat zone very quickly, and the enemy doesn't expect you, and you can just show up there. So that's what they're practicing over and over again. And clearly, a Korean War veteran like Hal Moore was, he knows that leaders can get killed in combat, and so he's sometimes killing the leaders in training, and that's a tradition we still had. We did that all the time when I was running training in the SEAL teams. The minute the leaders started to get a grip on things, it was like, okay, you're dead. Next man's got to step up. And sometimes that would just wreck a platoon or a task unit. The leader dies. If they're a good leader and they're not, and no one is used to stepping up, it'd be problematic. But sometimes it would actually be beneficial. You get some guy that's a micromanager, kill him, and then watch everything run smoothly, and you come back and you go, dude, you better back off a little bit because this guy's running a better show than you are. And it's really clear. So sometimes we teach guys lessons that way. Back to the book. Unfortunately, my battalion and every other in the division now began to suffer the consequences of President Johnson's refusal to declare a state of emergency and extend the active duty tours of draftees and reserve officers. The order came down. Any soldier who had who had 60 days or less left to serve on his enlistment as of the date of deployment, August 16th, must be left behind. We were sick at heart. We were being shipped off to war, sadly under strength, and crippled by the loss of almost 100 troopers in my battalion alone. The very men who would be the most useful in combat, those who had trained the longest in the new techniques of helicopter warfare, were by this order taken away from us. It made no sense then. It makes no sense now. So again, I talked about the strategic kind of implications that these guys felt, and this is one of them. And obviously I'm jumping through the book. They talks more about the workup and what they did to prepare, but now he's getting to this point where President Johnson doesn't declare a state of emergency and keep these guys in. And so, that's a political decision, obviously, but where does it impact? Sure, it impacts the guys on the front line. That's where it impacts.